Aaron Rashba.
Aye.
Shaquille Ali is absent. Andrea Jordan is absent. Nadia Flamenco.
Here.
Anthony Sujitaka.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Santa Cruz. All right, and we're at the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have Mr. Marquez Valenti lead us in the pledge? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marquez Valenti. All right, we will go to item 4, approval of the agenda. Before we do, I have Superintendent McCulloch.
Yes, I would like to request moving items 10A and 11A to after 6C, after the public hearing.
All right, there's that proposed change. Are there any other proposed changes or movements? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, now we moved on to item 5A, special presentations, local control accountability plan, LCAP update. Ms. Pamela Scott, Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services, will provide an update on the 24 to 27 three-year LCAP goals and actions.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? All right. So tonight I will be presenting our annual Local Control and Accountability Plan, the LCAP, updates for the 2024-2025 school year. So for those of you who may be new or need a refresher, the LCAP is a vital 3-year plan updated annually. It outlines precisely how our state and local funding directly supports our students and drives improved outcomes. It is a living document, evolving as we learn more about what our students, families, and staff need to succeed. I encourage everyone to refer to the full LCAP document on our website for detailed district and school statistics. Because the LCAP is meant to reflect the voices of our entire community, we engaged students, staff, and families in this year's review process. We gathered student input through student advisory councils at every school site, where students met with counselors to share their perspectives. Staff input was collected through surveys, focus groups, and regular meetings with staff representatives. Families were engaged through a district-wide survey, parent advisory group meetings, and outreach to various parent groups. School site councils, many of which include parent members, also played a key role in aligning site-level plans with district priorities. Our first overarching goal for the district is to maximize student success in both academics and social-emotional well-being through an inclusive and coordinated system of support, MTSS. From our students, we heard a clear call for more engaging instruction, stronger relationships with teachers, and greater opportunities to share their voices. In response, we've taken several key steps directly tied to LCAP actions. We've ensured that our curriculum is not only aligned to California state standards, but also designed with Universal Design for Learning, UDL, principles, making instruction more inclusive and accessible to all learners. This includes flexible grouping, active engagement strategies, and materials that reflect diverse perspectives, all part of Action 1.4. We've supported staffing ratios at the middle schools to provide more individualized intervention and enrichment opportunities, giving students more support and more meaningful connections with adults on campus. That's Action 1.10. To make sure these instructional changes are effective in every classroom, we're contracting with an iReady instructional support provider under our new Action 1.11. This person will work directly with teachers to implement the new board-adopted iReady math curriculum and leverage the iReady small group intervention tools across all schools. From our staff, we heard the need for relevant job-embedded professional development and more time for collaboration. We've addressed this through multiple actions. Teachers have had a voice in selecting new curriculum through adoption committees, a key feature of Action 1.4. Our middle school math teachers will now receive personalized on-site support from our iReady provider, New Action 1.11, ensuring they're supported with the new curriculum. The additional middle school elective staff, Action 1.10, has helped to reduce class size and offer more electives, ultimately creating stronger outcomes for students. And from our families, we consistently heard the importance of clear, timely communication about curriculum and student progress and the need for tools to support learning at home. In response, we provide access to online materials and instructional tools through Action 1.4, helping families understand what their children are learning and how they can be involved. With the addition of instructional support staff through Actions 1.10 and 1.11, we are able to offer timely academic interventions and improve communication with families when students need extra support. Building on this feedback, we will establish a grading and homework committee next year to further refine our communication with families about student progress. So together, these actions, 1.4, 1.10, and 1.11, represent a direct, thoughtful response to the feedback we received from students, staff, and families. They work in unison to create engaging, inclusive, and standards-aligned learning experiences, provide targeted middle school support and enrichment, deliver job-embedded professional learning for staff, and ensure families have the tools and information to stay involved and informed. Our second overarching goal is, by June 2027, academic performance in both ELA and math will meet or exceed 70% proficiency. So from our students, we heard a strong desire for learning that feels more relevant, hands-on, and connected to the real world. In response, we've expanded access to arts, music, and elective offerings that foster creativity and deeper engagement. These enrichment opportunities are part of Action 2.5 and reflect our commitment to providing students with learning experiences that go beyond core academics. We've also invested in professional development that supports universal design for learning strategies, ensuring that classroom instruction is both engaging and accessible to all learners. That's Action 2.1. From our staff, we heard the urgent need to address achievement gaps and improve supports for students who are struggling. In response, we are strengthening collaborative teacher teams across the district. Next year, staff will have additional time for personal and site collaboration. Staff will develop UDL lessons, analyze student data, and design tiered interventions tailored to individual student needs. This work is supported through Action 2.3. We will continue to invest in targeted professional development by offering new monthly optional sessions on a variety of topics. These sessions will equip staff with strategies and tools to support a diverse range of learners. This ongoing training is part of Action 2.1. Enhancing our English learner programs will be a priority for our newly formed ELD committee next year. Through Actions 2.6 and 2.7, these students receive specialized instruction, progress monitoring, and encouragement needed to thrive. From our families, we heard a clear need for more consistent, targeted support for students who are struggling. In response, we've prioritized data-driven, personalized interventions through Action 2.3, ensuring that all students, especially those who need extra support, receive the help they need when they need it. Through Action 2.7, we continue to support English learners with a targeted data-informed approach, identifying students not meeting benchmarks and providing instruction based on their specific needs, along with continued access to online language acquisition tools. And through professional development, Action 2.1, we're giving educators the tools to deliver these supports with both fidelity and compassion, so families can trust that their children are seen, supported, and set up for success. So together, these actions, 2.1, 2.3, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.7, reflect a cohesive and intentional response to what our students, staff, and families told us matters most. They help us engage students through meaningful real-world learning opportunities, close achievement gaps with targeted data-informed academic support, ensure that vulnerable learners, including English learners, receive consistent and personalized interventions. Our third overarching goal for the district, by June 2027, positive school climate indicators will meet or exceed 90% favorability. From our students, especially those at the middle school level, we heard a powerful message. They want a stronger sense of belonging and connection to school. In response, we've taken intentional steps to foster a more inclusive and supportive school climate. We've implemented restorative practices across all sites. This includes tools like classroom circles, affective statements, and formal conferences that help build trust, empathy, and community within classrooms. This important work is part of Action 3.1. We continue to elevate positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS, to promote clear, consistent expectations across campuses and to reinforce positive behavior in all students. That's Action 3.2. And to make sure students have access to support when they need it most, we continue to provide Tier 2 and 3 counseling services so students struggling with social emotional challenges have a caring adult to turn to. That's Action 3.7 and 3.9. From our staff, we heard the need for more resources and training to manage behavior and address students' social emotional needs. In response, restorative practices, Action 3.1, and PBIS, Action 3.2, provide educators with clear, consistent strategies to support students in a proactive and student-centered way. Ms. Martinez and I have hosted 2 cohorts to date and will continue with a new restorative practices cohort next year. The addition of school-based counseling services through Action 3.7 supports both students and staff, offering a more collaborative whole child approach to student well-being. From our families, we heard a strong call for more inclusive events and improved communication with schools. In response, we've enhanced multiple communication systems and created more ways for families to stay involved. The parent portal, Action 3.4, provides families with real-time updates on grades, attendance, and progress, giving them timely, transparent access to key information. We've streamlined and expanded our use of communication platforms, including websites, social media, newsletters, and messaging apps, to ensure all families receive accessible and consistent updates. That's Action 3.5. And through Action 3.11, we've expanded community involvement opportunities, including family nights, multilingual events, and parent education workshops, all designed to make participation accessible to all families, regardless of language, background, or schedule. Next year, our parent education workshops will focus on shifts in classroom instruction, helping parents better understand the Universal Design for Learning guidelines. Together, these actions, 3.1, 3.2, 3.4, 3.5, 3.7, 3.9, and 3.11, reflect a coordinated and compassionate response to what our students, staff, and families have told us they need. These efforts help us build stronger student relationships and a deeper sense of belonging, equip staff with tools and supports to address behavior and SEL needs holistically, improve communication, and create inclusive opportunities for all families to engage. Our next steps tonight after these presentations is the LCAP public hearing. The LCAP will move to the board adoption on June 25th, and then we submit it to San Mateo County Office of Ed on June 30th. So what unites all 3 goals is our unwavering commitment to listening and responding. Whether it's a student asking to be seen and heard, a teacher seeking meaningful support, or a parent wanting to stay informed, we've turned their feedback into action, and we will continue to do so because that's the foundation of true partnership. So thank you for your continued support as we work together to create the schools our students deserve, where learning is rigorous, relationships are strong, and every student feels a true sense of belonging. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Thank you for your presentation. All right, if there are any, this is information, so no action is needed, but if there are any comments or questions from the board, and I will start on my right.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, for the informative presentation. My only question is just around the 2 new committees that you mentioned, grading and homework and ELD. That was interesting to me. If you could just talk further about what their roles will be, who will be on the committee, their goals, that would be helpful.
So the grading and report card committee is to really reevaluate how we provide progress and feedback to our families. Grading is a long-standing progress or process that we have used that really needs to be updated. It began when we compared students against one another, which is in the middle schools, why we get the A to F range. And we're really looking at how students are progressing towards a standard rather than measuring against each other. So we want to take a look at how to best communicate how students are performing against grade level standards. And then how do we utilize our report card system to communicate that? So that's the grading and homework. And who would be on it would be representatives from every school site. We ran 3 different committees this year and wanted to make sure we had enough representation from all the different groups. And then the ELD committee is going to be run by Dina Conti, and it's really going to be looking at how do we provide designated ELD in the classroom and on a school site, especially with the shift of the elimination of our ELD teachers. So how do we provide supports knowing that that is no longer present? And also looking at how we redesignate and reclassify students who are English learners.
Thank you. I had a question about Tier 1 enrichment opportunities from Goal 2 at the bottom, 2.5. You mentioned Youth Cinema Project, and it says elementary. Do we not have it in the middle school, or is this that we don't need to provide any more funds for the middle school age group?
I can answer that question. Currently, the in-school program is in the elementary, at the 4 elementary schools. The middle school program is in the after-school program. It is very challenging to actually do according to the way it is designed in the middle school with the period schedule, because they need 90 minutes twice a week. So it's really difficult to do that within, the block scheduling. So they have done it in the after-school program these last 2 years, or last year at 2 of our schools.
Okay, thank you. So when it says we're going to allocate sites to fund, support for this in the elementary level, does that mean that we're not paying? Can you explain to me why middle school is not mentioned here?
Because the middle school is funded through the ELOP funds, which is the after-school program. The elementary is funded through our parcel tax, which is the one it's currently funded is the one sunsetting next year. And then we start a new parcel tax in 26, 27. So then we can determine, do we want to continue funding parcel tax dollars towards the youth cinema project in the elementary schools?
Okay, thank you.
And then if you have another question, we'll come back.
And my question, maybe you know more, because the question that I always ask you is if by 2027 we will have enough budget for enrichment programs as well as all the schools that we have right now.
Well, we are using parcel tax dollars for enrichment currently, and for the most part, and we renewed our parcel tax with an increase. Right now, our parcel tax, we earn 1.2-ish million a year. That's sunsetting next year, but we did last year, the community supported a new parcel tax. Thank you, our campaign chair, Clayton Koo, who's in the audience. We have a new parcel tax starting in 26, 27 that is going to earn us, projected to earn us 1.6 million. So that will increase a little bit. So that would go towards enrichment, because that was part of the intent for the parcel tax.
But we were going to have all our schools open
What do
by
you mean?
this time. Like, the question that I'm always asked is, we're spending money in enrichment programs, but my intention is to have all the schools available.
What do you
when
mean by
we
available?
Open.
You mean the programs available?
Because I don't see
Having the programs at every school.
Available
having
to
the
all
programs in
schools.
every school without closing any schools.
Well, that's a whole nother question that we're going to have with our superintendent advisory committee. I don't know what's going to happen, so I can't answer that question right now.
Because we were spending in some enrichment programs, but if it means we're going to have closing in schools, I don't know. That's what just throwing there.
I also want to share that part of that action includes electives and enrichment at the middle school. And that's part of just the staffing ratio. So our middle schools last year shuffled their master schedule and their bell schedule. So students at the end of the day, 4 days a week, have like a club or enrichment type activity that they get to belong to or opt into as well as their daily elective, which is outside of those funding sources. So for the middle school, like what's happening in the school day will continue.
Okay.
All right, and then I just have one question. So for goal 2, you said personal and site collaboration. What is personal collaboration?
So we've reconfigured Wednesdays, so the teacher-directed time has expanded, and site-directed time, formerly known kind of as staff meetings, has also expanded. So there's additional time, which is why students are getting out at 1:05 now on Wednesdays, to build in additional time for teachers to do what they need to plan and prep and do all the jobs or skills or requirements that come when the students leave. And then sites also have time to do more directed work.
Awesome, thank you. No, just the words personal, meaning singular, and collaboration. Didn't understand, but thank you for clarifying.
They get to choose, right, if who they're collaborating with, if they want to collaborate during that time. It's also additional time for our special education instructors to have collaboration time with teachers who receive their students.
Awesome, thank you. And then my last comment, it's just a comment, was just saying keep soliciting feedback. Are there any
Absolutely.
other comments or questions from the board?
One more question. In the part of students, are we providing hotspots for students, or if there is a possibility that we can provide hotspots for the students?
We do provide hotspots, yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Ali?
So you mentioned English language development and that we're losing some teachers. And then you mentioned that there's going to be a committee to address that. What are some of the ideas? Do you have any strategies already?
So I think the committee will be charged with looking at what are the legal requirements for providing special services or addressing the needs of our English language learners, and looking at what our current program is and seeing where there's flexibility. I'm not going to give ideas because I want that to be what the committee comes up with, and I don't want to frontline any information.
And then maybe I missed it, or excuse me if I did, but what did you mean by we're losing ELD teachers?
So those were the additional ELD and MTSS teachers that the board took action on in February, I think, to reduce.
It's related to the one-time COVID relief funds. We received a large sum of money for one-time purposes to support students returning to school after the pandemic. And so that was those were positions that we filled for a short time to support students in that transition from the pandemic. That funding sunsets now. So we do not have funding to fund those positions in the future in the outgoing years, unfortunately.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, thank you very much, Superintendent Scott, Assistant Superintendent Scott. Not yet. Item 5B, fiscal year 25-26 budget development presentation. Ms. Josephine Peterson, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present the fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget and multi-year financial projection for the district.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. As soon as we can get the presentation up, I'm going to be presenting the 25-26 budget. Thank you. And our budget is aligned with our LCAP that Ms. Scott just presented. So all of the actions in the LCAP are supported by the 25-26 proposed budget. So we're going to go over tonight. Here's an overview of what I'll be presenting. The budget timeline, the governors may revise, and a little bit of the local control funding formula, our budget with our multi-year, and then next steps. So here is our budget cycle. We're currently in the adopted budget timeframe. We just received the governor's May revision, and so our budget is based on the best information we have at the time, which is the governor's May revision. The next step is for the legislatures to review the governor's May revision, which they have, and they have proposed some changes. They're going to work through that in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully the state will adopt a final budget by the end of June. In the timeline, our next report to the board will be our first interim in December 2025. Just to kind of look at what are some of the major assumptions in the governor's budget and our multi-year. Our multi-year budget is a very important factor of our budget because we need to demonstrate that we can meet our obligations for the current year and 2 fiscal years going forward. So what we have here is the main assumptions. The cost of living is the governor's proposal, and it's put together by School Services Dartboard. And they call it a dartboard because the numbers do change as we progress through the budget process. In January, the cost of living that the governor had proposed were higher, and these COLAs are much lower, not much lower, but slightly lower than what he had projected. We're also basing our budget on what is our projected enrollment. Our enrollment has gone down since COVID, and our current enrollment that we're projecting for 25-26 is conservative, along with 26-27, 27-28. It looks like we're getting higher TK enrollments, and so if that does come to fruition, we will make adjustments when we present the next budget report to the board. So the main assumptions are the cost of living, the enrollment, what is our ADA, which is the funding that we receive when the students attend school. Other big assumptions, big costs that we have to incur is pension costs, and STRS is the teachers' pension cost, and PERS is classified pension costs. So we pay a significant portion of our costs towards retirement, almost 19.1% for teachers, and for classified, it's almost 27%. The teachers' retirement system is pretty steady. It stays the same throughout the 3 years. Classified pension costs are projected to rise over the next 3 years. One of the things to consider is the COLA is meant to cover all of our budget costs. It really doesn't cover all of the costs of employee costs and our operational costs. We have increases in addition to employee costs in our operations such as insurance and utilities. And then other things in the governor's May revision, these are just some of the big items that he mentioned. He did propose some additional one-time discretionary funds for school districts. The legislators have proposed a lower amount, so at this time, this is not included in our budget. We're going to wait until the final budget is adopted, and then we can add it in our first interim. It could be as much as $1 million for our school district once the budget is adopted. There's also ongoing funding for the implementation of TK and additional continued funding for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. And there is a commitment to continue funding the Child Nutrition Program. So all of the meals will continue to be free for students, breakfast and lunch, and there is additional funding for families during the summer program. That's called the Sunbucks program. There is one proposal in the governor's budget that is to defer funding to school districts. So when they pay us monthly amounts, and he proposes to defer a portion of our June apportionment to July, which is about $1 million for Jefferson. It's not a huge issue for us because we do have sufficient reserves to cover our cash flow from June until July. And then I just kind of wanted to review local control funding formula because we are so heavily dependent on state funding. So the local control funding formula is a formula where the state pays us based on our students, based on the grade span of our students, first grade, second grade, we get a dollar amount, and then we get additional funding for what's called unduplicated students, and those are students with higher needs. Those could be English learner students or low socioeconomically disadvantaged students and our homeless and foster youth, and those are called supplemental funds. So there's two different types of funding in San Mateo County and in the state of California, but it's more evident in San Mateo County. The second is called community funding, and that's where a school district used to be called basic aid, and a community-funded district actually receives more than what the local control funding formula calculates. And so here's an example of the difference between what is a local control funding formula school district, which is Jefferson, and then a community-funded school district, which is many of our neighbors here in San Mateo County. There are only 5 school districts in San Mateo County that are local control funded formula. The rest of them are all basic aid in San Mateo County. And so when you look at the first bucket, you can see that the state aid or local control funded district first receives their property taxes that are generated in their area. And then the state makes up the difference with the local control funding formula. How much funds do they receive per student? When you look at the second bucket, that would be what's called a basic aid or a community-funded school district. So their property taxes far exceed the amount of funds that they would receive per student, and you can see that their bucket is overflowing. So for an example, Jefferson might get $11,000 average per student. A basic aid-funded school district could get as much as $20,000 to $30,000 per student. It's a huge difference, and it's a big difference here in San Mateo County. So just kind of wanted to review that because our budget is based on local control funding, and right now that's kind of how our funding is. So here's a big picture of our revenues. I just wanted to show what are the different categories of the revenues that we receive here at Jefferson. The majority of our funds are from state funds. It's 78%, and that is the state local control funding formula and also our state special education funds. We get very little funding from the federal government. It's less than 4%, and what that is Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and the federal IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Act. And so that's a very small portion is federal funding. We do receive some additional state funding, and those are the programs you've heard about: lottery, expanded learning opportunity, our after-school program, the new arts and music that was passed from Prop 28 a couple of years ago. Those are all other state revenues. And then local revenue, we're very fortunate this community supports a parcel tax because that is the majority of our local revenue is from the parcel tax. We receive a little bit of lease income and donations and interest income, but the majority of that is from the parcel tax. And then when we look at our expenditures, you can see that 77% of our expenditures are all employee costs. This percentage is a little bit low from what it was pre-COVID. Before COVID, it was about 85% of our budget was employee costs. And what happened during COVID is the students' needs, there was a lot of needs from our students, and so we had a lot of contracted services, and we still do. So the difference here is we have higher contracted services and less employee costs in our budget. The other categories of our budget are books and supplies, which include the textbooks. We have textbook adoptions, instructional materials, technology equipment and devices. And when you look at services and operating costs, what that does include is all of the contracted services for our high-need students. It also includes transportation costs, which has risen steadily over the years, utilities, and insurance. Our insurance costs have also increased substantially over the years. And then I think the other category is other outgo. That is really the cost of receiving services from the County Office of Education for our special needs students, and it also includes like extended school year. So one of the things we look at, as I talked about, was our multi-year budget, and we did receive feedback the last time that we had a very summarized multi-year, so I did prepare 2 different slides. This one is a little bit more detailed. It shows the current fiscal year and then the next 2 years out. One of the things to really highlight in our multi-year is that our district is deficit spending. And this includes both restricted funds and unrestricted funds. When restricted funds are deficit spending, it's really because you received the funds in one year and you've spent them in another. For example, ELOP is a very good example. We received a lot of the funds but didn't start the program right away, so we spent them the next year, which results in a deficit. The main thing to think about is when the unrestricted side of the budget is deficit spending. And I just want to go to the next slide because it's a little bit easier to read. The full multi-year is in the budget package, but this one just kind of shows you the total revenues and expenditures and deficit. The highlighted portion there is transfers in from reserves. Because of our deficit spending, we are transferring funds from our reserve accounts into the budget to help alleviate the deficit. And even so, with those transfers, you can see the third line up from the bottom is the deficit is about $7 million ongoing every year. And of that deficit, about $4 million is from the unrestricted side of the budget. And the difficulty we have is that the COLA, the cost of living, is really not covering our increases in costs. We have a lot of expenditures where we incurred and grew the expenditures during COVID with all of the COVID one-time funds from the federal and state government, and now we're absorbing those costs into our budget. Another thing that's happened to us is our declining enrollment. Our revenues have gone down because we have less enrollment, less kids, less attendance. So right now, the district does have sufficient funds in the current year and 2 years out to cover the deficit because we do have very strong reserves in our district. So that's a pretty summarized version of our multi-year. Again, you know, I think we need to really focus on our deficit spending as we move forward and understanding what are our fiscal pressures, you know, how are our revenues generated, and, you know, what is our operating budget. So this chart kind of just shows you the causes of deficit spending. Again, it's our declining enrollment. We're getting lower LCFF revenues. Our COLAs are just not covering the rising costs in our budget for both of our employee costs, retirement costs, insurance, and all of our operating costs. The loss of COVID funds is huge for our district. We had a lot of, like we talked about the ELA teachers, a lot of expenditures in our budget during COVID years were supported with COVID funds, and we no longer have those COVID funds. Again, another area is the student needs really increased over the last few years, and the transportation costs have really increased. And so there's an increase in special ed, and this federal and state government do not adequately fund special education costs. They just don't recognize the costs and the amount of cost for the needs the students incur. So that's those are the reasons we have the structural deficit. Our district has reserves, so we're strategically using those reserves to meet the current deficits in the current year and the next 2 years. We want to maintain as many of the programs and services as we can. We can't maintain them all, but we want to try and maintain as much as possible. We are using the reserves because of our current shortfalls and to support our ongoing operations. And again, everything in the LCAP is supported by this budget. So the budget is in alignment with the LCAP. And our next steps right now is to really look at our budget carefully. We are looking to form a superintendent's budget and facilities advisory committee where we can really gather, you know, the input from the community, and this will help us guide long-term strategies and review our budget priorities. So next steps, as Pam mentioned, our LCAP and our budget are going to be adopted by the board on June 25th. We will get the final state budget on June 30th. If there's material differences, we'll bring them to the board within 45 days. And you will see the unaudited actuals in September, and then we'll have our first interim report in December. And that report will be far more accurate than the report we have now because we'll have the final state budget, and we'll also have our final staffing, our final enrollment, and most of our costs. So that'll be in December. And that is it. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments or suggestions from the board.
Thank you for your presentation. All right, and again, this is another information item. So if there are any comments and questions from the board, and remember one at a time, and then I will start from on my left.
A question about enrollment. I remember I was telling you guys if there is a possibility that San Mateo County count enrollment by year instead of monthly for us to have the whole budget during the year. And then if we were able to receive enrollment during the summer as well, if that can change, or we can ask San Mateo.
So I think it's really more attendance is what you're asking, right?
Yes.
So the attendance is taken on a daily basis as the students attend school, and it's it's done by the state of California. So the attendance is basically from the beginning of school through April, and that is how they calculate our average daily attendance, and that's the number that we use to calculate our revenues.
But is there a way that we can try to change it for us to receive the money yearly instead of by attendance monthly, or?
That would be something you would need to go to the legislature, and because this is something that how the state funds it, and this is something that we don't have control over as a board or even as a district. So if you want to change it, I encourage you to speak to your local congressmen and women. Exactly. So continue to do so. That's what the board can do, is to advocate for, I would prefer for enrollment instead of ADA, because we staff according to who is enrolled, but they only pay us for who shows up on a regular basis. So I agree. I know that there is interest, and there are some proposals out there to do that. It wouldn't happen right away, and it would have to get approved, but that's something that the board can do, is to advocate for that. We just don't have control and can't make any decisions on that, because that's not how we don't have the authority to do that.
And we were also talking in meetings with San Mateo County, because of the distribution of taxes is way different, Palo Alto, Burlingame, than what we collect as taxes, and that inequality, right? They try to advocate. So we have talked about that many, many times, but there is another way that we can pressure the county for them to give us more money.
The county is not who gives us the money. It comes from the state. So it would have to be advocating to the state to fund districts in a different way. So I wish, yes.
All right, Trustee Ali?
I have one comment and two questions, so can I ask them both at the same time?
If they are related, or I'm
Okay.
going to stop you.
So my first comment is my broken record comment, that I'm very concerned that we're seeing a budget. Now we're seeing a budget that has 3 years of strategic use of reserves. So I was somewhat able to stomach seeing 1 year where we weren't using, we weren't deficit spending, but now 3 years in a row. So I just want to make it clear that I'm against that. And I would like our board to somehow figure out how to see a different type of budget, because I've been saying this over and over, and I haven't got any, I haven't heard any other board member talk about that. So maybe you guys don't care about it, but I do. So I was just wondering, so my question is, how do we solve this problem of always having on our budget that we're deficit spending?
So that is the hope of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, is that we can look for ways to enhance our revenues and at the same time control our expenditures so that we can bring
Is
it
this
in.
on?
Is it not on? Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's green. But that is our hope, is that we can generate more revenues and eliminate the deficit spending.
And that is the committee that you are on for subcommittee, you and Trustee Rashbaugh. So you will definitely be part of that.
And I had another question. Hopefully I'll remember after you go.
I really just have comments. First of all, I do want to thank you for responding to my request for a 3-year look at the budget, which was really inspired by our former colleague, Clayton Koo. In it's so helpful to see, where we are, not just this year in a good position, but down the road. And yeah, I just really want to reiterate two things that you said, building on my colleagues' comments. First of all, Trustee Flamenco commented on inequality, and just noting how much of a disadvantage that we are, in comparison to our neighbors being community funded and spending, up to double per student and able to spend much more on teachers and services and programs than we are, and just a condition to be aware of. I think that despite that, we are doing an excellent job by our students overall. And then the second thing I noted, which is what Trustee Ali picked up on, is the 3 years going out of deficit spending. Deficit spending in and of itself does not concern me. My priority is to try to is educational excellence and retaining the programs and resources that we can have to best serve our students. But obviously, this is not sustainable. And so I think that just speaks to the importance of the Superintendent Facility Advisory Committee and our district's efforts to get out ahead of this, which other neighboring districts have struggled with. So I applaud what we're doing. We're certainly in for difficult conversations and decisions to address this, because there's just no easy answers. But I think that getting out ahead of it and forming a working group is the first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rashba. All right, so I had 2 questions, but I'm only going to ask one. So I know, Trustee Rashba, and again, you mentioned in your presentation about community funded. So why are some districts like that versus others? Can you give like a 1-minute synopsis of what it would take for us to become a community funded school or district, if that's even possible?
Yeah, so the big difference is you're gonna get, based on how many students you have, a dollar amount based on that formula. And your property taxes is what you first receive. And then you get the difference from the state. So you're always going to get that dollar amount of how much money do the students generate for being in their seats every day. That's how much you get. If for some reason our property taxes were to be more than that dollar amount, we would receive that amount plus whatever property taxes we receive. Unfortunately, right now we're far off. We would need to have a lot more development in Daly City, a lot of turnover in properties. We are not close to becoming community funded. And there really are only 5 school districts in our situation.
Got it, thank you. And then Trustee Ali?
So I remember my question, and it was based on something that you said and you both said. So can you tell us which legislators do not want to support Governor Newsom's offer of money to the districts?
I would have to look up which ones. There are just differences in his proposal versus what theirs are. I actually have a summary from school services I could send out in the board update.
Okay, because that would be great, because those are the people we need to talk to, right? And we know them, right? So that would be great. Thank you.
And then my last question is, so there was a slide in here with the title AB 2561 that was not read. Was that intentional?
Yes, and that was a new law, assembly, that I don't even have it in my presentation. So that was given to us, provided by the county in the listserv, and actually we prepared it because it was a law that shows that you should show how many vacancies do you have in your school district. What is your staffing and how many vacancies do you have? Well, that law does not apply to school districts. It was a law for government agencies, and we received the instruction that it applied to us, so we prepared a slide, and then we later received an instruction that it did not apply to school districts, so the slide was removed.
Got it, thank you. And then I guess just one quick follow-up. Is it in the digital online docs? Okay,
No.
cool, thank you. Got it, no worries, no, thank you. Are there any last comments or questions from the board?
I have one more.
Yeah.
We live right next to Silicon Valley, and
Yes.
there is so much money. What we can do to get something, at least for them to invest in our students. Is there a way that we can request?
Well, a lot of those organizations invest in the communities that they're close to, which is Menlo Park, Atherton, all of those areas. So, we've tried to reach out for grants. We've tried to, and we are receiving some. We continue to receive some through the county office, but we can try to continue to tap into those, but you have to apply for grants and things like that. They don't normally just give money to a school district, which is also something that we're working on with our Kids First Education Foundation. Clayton Koo is here. And so we're rebuilding that, and that is where that organization can help try to seek funding from the community, Silicon Valley, to then support our district. And they're a 501c3, so then they can get a tax write-off. Whereas if they donate to a district, they don't get a tax write-off. So we can partner with our education foundation, so that's another way. And so encourage folks to look into Kids First Education Foundation.
And through the president, we do get support from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. I don't know if we are this year.
No, we
What
haven't.
the-
That was through the Big Lift, and that was in the past, but they have not been, we don't have any grants with them currently, and they haven't been supporting us for a while.
Are there any other comments or questions from the board? All right, thank you so much, Assistant Superintendent Peterson.
Thank you.
All right, and we move on to item 6A, public hearing on 2024, 2027 local accountability, or I should,
No, that's only if there are comments.
oh, do we not have any comments? Okay, so then I will open the public hearing at 7:51 for local control accountability program. Are there any comments on LCAP?
There's no public hearing, so you can just open and close.
Just to make sure you said there are none on LCAP? Okay, so then I close public hearing on,
This one actually would relate.
okay, so the first comment will be from Marzo Galulias. Sorry, I cannot read it.
Mario Galvez.
Oh, thank you so much. And this is in, education services. So let's get the 2-minute timer, please. So, and let me read this really quick. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. We will display the 2-minute timer on the screen. If the timer ends, I will stop you if you go over. As a reminder, the board may not discuss or comment on items not listed on this agenda or expressed during communications public comment. We want you to know that we will hear you, and we will ask our superintendent to follow up on your comments. Please make sure you leave your name and contact information with Ms. Santa Cruz so our administration knows how to reach you. And then once the 2-minute timer starts, right there, okay, you may start.
Hi, my name is Mario Galvez. I'm a parent at George Washington Elementary. And I see that the position of the teacher for English for immigrant kids it's been changed to non-qualified teacher. And I, as an immigrant, I can tell you how important it is to know what's being taught. Because at the end, those kids will get the feeling that they're dumb, and they will become good material for gangs. And it is very important that we have a qualified teacher, not someone that might be getting the job because he knows someone. And I've been in that position where I met at a window some person that I could not communicate at all, simply because that person did not know any English and got the job because he knew someone, or also it just doesn't have the tools on how to teach. So it is very important that we keep our English teachers for our kids, so we get these smart kids developed in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any more comments for LCAP 2024, 2027?
Just for point of order, we need to open the public hearing at a time and close it at a time. So we opened the public hearing at 7:53, I
One.
think, 7:51,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then I don't think there's any more comments.
Okay, so then we will close it at 7:54 PM. All right, item 6B, public hearing for fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the fiscal year 25-26 proposed district budget. And then I think all of these are comments later, okay. All right, so we open this public hearing at 7:55 and we close it at 7:55. All right, item 6C, public hearing on district reserves in excess of minimum requirements. The governing board of the Jefferson Elementary School District will hear public comments on the district reserves in excess of minimum requirements. We will open this public comment at 7:55 and we will close it at 7:55. All right, and then we move on to items 10A. Special Education Program Updates. Dr. James Adams, Director of Special Education, will provide an overview of the district's special education services.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're all ready to go. Thank you so much, Board. I just need to get that ready, Ms. Santa Cruz. Oh, I thought it was already. Thank you so much. So, every year I do update a little bit on our special ed overview. So I just wanted to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about kind of what's happening, some of the supportive inclusive practices that we've been working on, and performance findings for special education and future planning that we're doing. So, here in Jefferson, we've been working very hard in believing a culture which promotes everyone belongs in JESD. We worked over the past 11 years that I've been the director of special ed of having students in their home district, not as much as possible in the county office of eds or non-public schools, so we serve our students in district. And also we continue to work very hard to have students be fully included and mainstreamed within our district. We continue to work on that. It's still a work in progress, but that is something that we are continually working on. Just to give everyone a little lay of the land, we're not a very big school district, but since my tenure here of 11 years, we still about have the same number of students in special education. Our declining enrollment is not being evidenced here in special ed, but that's a similar pattern across the country. We have very high rates of students that have pretty impactful developmental disabilities, mainly autism, intellectual disabilities. So we have special day classes. 266 kids. Our resource specialist program are students that get push-in or pull-out services with a special ed teacher. You can see the number there. And then their students get speech only. So that's about our current number. It varies between 783 and 800 students, plus or minus. So that's just to give the board an overview and the members of the audience what it looks like. This is sort of a breakdown of the number of staff that I oversee and we have in our department. Myself, we have 2 program coordinators now. How many, you can just look through there, how much staff that we have. Quite a few paraprofessionals that support our kids. We now have 1 school nurse and some clerks, and you can see our office staff. So 178 students, almost 800 students, and you have 178 people trying to support them. So you kind of do the math. You can kind of see that people are working very, very hard to be able to support our students who have special needs. We are doing pretty well still in having kids mainstreamed and in least restrictive environments. This is the compliance report. It's always a year old that we have in the district. So we are continuing to have students that are in gen ed who get supported with special ed and students who are in SDC's mainstream. That's what those numbers mean. We are compliant for having kids basically in our own schools, being here within Jefferson Elementary School District, meaning that we don't have a lot of kids in County Office of Ed or non-public schools. During our IEP meetings, we always ask parents if we involve them in their participation and we collect that information, and that's what that parent involvement is. Child Find is to make sure that we test students who we suspect is having a disability. That's a requirement under IDEA, and we're compliant with that as well. And IEP percentage is, again, are we within the ratio of how many students we have in our district to have the amount of students within special ed? So these are some good areas that we're shining in. We're continuing to make growth in those areas. One of the areas I'd really like to focus on is we've been working extremely hard in trying to create more inclusive programs within our district. Lisa Zamiga, our preschool director, and myself have been having a dream for many years, and it's becoming fruition, where we're having students that are in her programs who would have normally perhaps been in a special day class, that's a self-contained class, within her preschool programs. Note, we also have programs throughout the district at other sites at Daniel Webster, Thomas Edison, and Westlake, where kids are in gen ed preschool classes, and we have supports that get pushed into those students there. To build a viable, inclusive program, we really have to have kids start early, right? If you've been in a special day class and at 6th grade, you're suddenly, it's hard for most kids to transition into that world. So we are really working hard on that. So that's been doing very, very good work. We really last year transitioned some kids from this program into TK and K. We had some work to do, so we worked very hard this year to do much better transitions this year, involving the gen ed teachers in that and their site administrators in those communications about IEPs and kids coming in. So that's something we're really looking forward to. Our district still is very good in IEP compliance. Our teams, you saw 178 people, not all of them are teachers, but everyone's working extremely hard to have IEPs on time, to get assessments done on time. That's not, every district can't say that, let's just say that. So they continue to do that, and our office staff works very hard on that. Another thing that we're working very hard on, and Ms. Scott's been helping us as well, is a special ed committee that we have that we're continuing to talk about ways and pathways for our students to have more time in general education classes, to make sure our teachers in general education have the skills that they need to support kids that have special needs, and that's going to be an ongoing process here in the district. We do have some needs in our district that got identified. We have two areas that were identified this year. So people might have been on the board for a while, Mr. Ali, had seen we had an overrepresentation or disproportionality of Hispanics, that's a state's term for Latino students, in special education as having specific learning disability. We also had a higher than expected rate of suspensions for Hispanic students in Jefferson. So this is an area of compliance that we're going to be looking at. This is the type of thing we get. I wanted to share in 2017, 18, 19, we also were in this DisPro. That's the abbreviation that we used. We got out of disproportionality. I'm confident that we're going to be able to do it again, but we're not significantly disproportionate. So if you're at County Office of Ed meetings or something, that significant disproportionality happens when you maintain disproportionate for a long period of time. So we're in something called disproportionate, which means there's plenty of time for us to work together to change this. I think the LCAP is keenly, which we'll get to, aligned to the needs that have to happen for us to be able to meet this goal. So we're at, also, I know this, we're at level 3 for school-age students in terms of monitoring the preschool students. We believe, well, I believe from my data that we've already surpassed that. Our kids that are in preschool have, we got a notification before that there were kids too segregated in preschool, and we've really made a really big difference in that. So this is another example here of what that's looking at, of race and ethnicity in the consecutive years. So we're in 1 year, this is 2024, and we're looking at these types of data points. One thing I want to show here, and I want to make very clear, that we did a data review with the County Office of Ed, and we started seeing that a lot of students at TRP are Hispanic students who have SLD. However, when we started doing some real root cause analysis, we saw that many of those kids were identified much earlier, and you know, first, second, third, fourth, mostly around 4th grade, they're identified. So it's really important if you see these data points, because this is on our dashboard, that you recognize that it's not TRP where this is happening, they're just inheriting some things that we need to continue working through. So we're going to continue doing root cause analyses to try to understand what's going on around these assessment practices. One thing that we do know is that we do have good assessment practices. Our school psychologists We're leaders in the county for patterns of strengths and weaknesses. They use tools, CLIM, which is a tool that uses to make sure that if we're identifying kids for having specific learning disabilities, that it's not due to their English language development. So I think we're doing really good work there. But what we're noticing, and again, you can see LCAP is clearly talking about this, our pre-referral process since COVID got a little weak. Some of the ways that we can support kids at Tier 1 and Tier 2, making sure that they're getting interventions early and ongoing. We have started that. UDL, the conversation's been going on. iReady, there's things that we've already been doing, but they're relatively new, so I think after COVID, some of those things might have gotten a little weak. But at the same time, we're ready, and we can see it's all embedded in our LCAP plan for the next 3 years. And so those two things coming together, I think will continue to address disproportionality in our district. Because the truth is, we all know that everyone might have some neurodiversity, right? If we test everyone, that's not the point. Special education is for the students who are not responding to interventions, that do have a learning difference, that then might need some support. But we want to give them everything we can before they ever would get tested for special education, for learning disabilities in particular. So that's really very important for us to think about here. So I just, we exited before, and I know we're going to do it again. We have the tools, we have the learning services and ed services team working very hard with special education being part of that to exit on that. So I think that we should feel confident that we're going to get back to that place very soon. The other thing that's really awesome is that we are awarded a grant from SIP, which is a Supporting Inclusive Practices. This is a program that is supported by the state, the California Department of Education, and they've already been working with us this year on talking about least restrictive environment. That's the word that means kids are in general education. They're not segregated into classrooms away from their gen ed peers. We've really been working very hard to try to begin those conversations, and next year that will continue as well. We have been doing, again, this root cause work. And, Hispanic students receiving more than expected eligibility as having specific learning disabilities. So that means we need to really start looking at what supports we're doing in general education, in elementary, to help these students who are not achieving academically where we'd expect. And again, that's what the LCAP exactly talked about. And that's what we're talking about for collaboration for teachers, how they can plan better, right? All of these things you can see are coming full circle, at least in my opinion. So that's really, I thought there was something else after that, but I guess it didn't show up. But anyway, I want to say thank you. I've been in this district for 25 years and 11 years as director of special ed. I was a school psychologist before that, and I really appreciate some people who've been on the board for some time, and I am very excited about the next phases for this district. I think it's very confident thing. I'm very confident that good things are about to happen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Adams. All right, again, this is information only, so we want to take action and comments and questions, and I'll start on my right.
Thank you, Dr. Adams, for an excellent presentation and for all your service to our district. My question is actually building on some of the earlier comments we had around advocacy. And, my understanding is that special education and the IDEA is a real unfunded mandate, for our district. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts. I know there are no easy answers here on what we can do to change that and move the needle and get more funding for special education.
Yeah, well, I think it's a problem we're all experiencing because now there's an estimate of about 1 in 36 kids potentially have autism. Doesn't mean they all need special education, but they might need some related services or other things. And IDEA is not adequately funded. It has not been funded for decades properly. And currently, it looks like it's going to be even less funded. And so in our district, we do have, like I said, we have families that move into our district that tell us routinely that, when I was in the Philippines, my kid couldn't go to school, right? They're 8 years old. They've never been in school. Or from Latin America, they haven't been in school. Thank you so much for but you can see the window of support for them when we can test kids early on. So what I'm trying to say is we need to advocate for more funding to be able to support kids that might need really intensive support later in their career too. So it's not just about IDEA funding kids, it's also about how do we kind of look at providing extra support, kind of like we do for socioeconomic or English language learners. How do we also have extra funding for districts that have students that come here who haven't had interventions that might need some really intensive work? It's very expensive and very time consuming for our teachers and for our paraprofessionals, for students you can imagine who's never been in a school setting. So I've been thinking about that for a while, but we really have to create some formula around that. This kind of an add-on to IDEA would be my opinion. if you're going to ask what I might do next, something like that.
And if I may add on to that, I actually just became aware of a resolution that the county SELPA just did to encourage our state legislators to advocate for funding, fully funding IDEA at 40%, which was what they intended. So I can bring that to a future board meeting to have the board do a resolution and then share it with our legislators to say that the board supports that as well, if that's what we want to do. So.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I just want to say that at the graduation at, what was it, FDR, after the graduation, a parent came up to us and he told me he remembered me from being on the board, and he said he really wanted to talk to me about the special ed department. And he said that he had been to our board meetings, complaining and really critiquing our special ed department, and that he saw a big turnaround, that he was very pleased and very happy with the services that his son received, and he just gave us accolades, and he also mentioned your name. So congratulations and great work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
I have a question, but this one maybe is in two lines. First, I want to ask you, Sandy, do we know how many kids we have in incarceration from Daly City?
I don't have that information, but I can get
Okay.
that to you. Mean in under 18 students
Correct.
incarcerated?
Yes.
I don't know how I can find that, but I can try.
Because I was in a meeting where someone came to me and mentioned the majority, 85% of kids who are incarcerated have dyslexia, and I wonder if they have had an IEP, that it will be something that, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
hard to
throwing
tell.
that information to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a
I'm
theory.
not sure we'd be
I
able to
think
find
it's-
that information because it's confidential. If they're not in our district,
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to get that information.
But I wonder if that is a reality. I mean, I heard it from somebody who has worked in incarceration for a while, and he mentioned that it's something interesting, so it's related to special needs.
I mean, I can say something because, I'm a county commissioner for juvenile justice and delinquency prevention. So they do make, the probation department makes reports every month at the commission meetings, and they talk about how many youth are incarcerated in our county and which cities they come from. So the majority of, right now, I'm not going to say any numbers because I don't have it in front of me, but East Palo Alto, Redwood City. Daly City was not number one. And when they got to, but I think Daly City might have been number 3. All right, so anyway, but I remember them mentioning the few that were incarcerated from Daly City that I don't think any of them, or if maybe one was under high school age. So there were a few that were high school age, but there weren't a lot from our district. So I can give you that information.
Oh, and then the other question is how we're gonna do with the kids that need to speak English. What is gonna be our approach?
Well, are you talking about, because right now, we have to stay on topic on the
Okay.
agenda, so if that is not related to special ed, we can't discuss that anymore until later.
Okay.
But one thing I would like to share is that we have adopted, it's a requirement now to do screenings for kids for dyslexia, right? We adopted that, I think it was a few months ago, or a few months ago, the board approved that, that screener that would happen. So we're trying to identify students earlier. And the goal is not to put them in special education. The goal is to screen them, give them interventions and supports so that they don't end up in special education, not a wait to fail model. So that's really why that came out through the legislature, so to kind of address your dyslexia talk question, yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. All right, I have two questions, but I'll start off with one. So on the slide where it has the bar graph, which school is 0000002?
Can I go back and see? That's a good, that is not an in-district, that is a county office of ed.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
sorry.
so much.
I couldn't
And
change
then-
that, that's what the state had it. I just
No worries, no, I just
screenshot it.
wanted to clarify,
Just
just
to
if
let
there's a
you know.
school I'm missing, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I was getting the
Yeah,
right
sorry about
data
that.
or information. No, thank you. If there are no
Non-public
other
schools.
questions, I have a second, but I don't want to jump in line. Okay. My second question is, I guess, and this may be more for Superintendent McCulloch, if we don't have this information, what % of our district is classified as Hispanic?
Oh, I don't have that right in front of me. I'll get it to you.
No worries. And the only reason I ask that question is because these numbers do look large. Being a math person, I also want to know the data that we're pulling from. So if a majority of our district is Hispanic, of course, there is going to be a larger number of just in general of Hispanics or Asian, Filipino of the demographic. So I just wanted to know those general numbers just so we can kind of see where that number is coming from so we can accurately interpret the
And
data.
that's a good question. Ms. McCulloch had actually asked me about that question, and not the numbers, but it's basically compared to our population, is this expected? And they're saying it's not expected. We're kind of too many SLD, specific learning disabled, Hispanic students than we'd expect from our own population. And then they compare it to the state. It's kind of a mystery a little bit how they do it, to be honest with you, but there's some state information there, and then compared to us, would we expect that given the averages of the state? So we're slightly above what we'd expect.
Got it. Thank you for your transparency. And then, yes, Trustee Ali, then Trustee Flamenco.
So, related to what President Sujisaka is talking about right now, when you mentioned the more than expected eligibility, I didn't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but when you look at the schools that you're saying are the schools that are feeding into TRP, I don't want to use the wrong language, are over qualifying the student. I mean, are you looking at this more than expected eligibility? Also, are you looking at the fact that maybe some of those students don't necessarily need to qualify for an IEP?
If I understand your question, Mr. Ali, all of the students have an IEP, and they've been identified as having a specific learning disability. We don't know necessarily yet what those areas are, but I suspect it's all reading or English language arts somehow. Most students are eligible that way, so that's probably what it is. But what I'm saying is that because on near Susan B. Anthony, JFK, George Washington, right, we have more students that speak who are Hispanic. So also the data isn't always that students are not English language learners, right? This is not about ELD, right? It's really about them being Hispanic students. Latino students. So we're trying to look right now to see what is going on, and what we're thinking is, the truth is when we look at some of our test scores all over the district, they're not where they need to be, right? And that's why the LCAP is being developed to meet this need. And so students can wait to fail a little bit or not get the needs they have, and then special education is seen as the only game in town to be able to support them. So around 4th grade, they're often assessed, but they've spent time not getting some of the interventions perhaps they've needed. Where perhaps, and this is why it's so important to have the community and families being able to understand. Other families might have resources or knowledge or skills to be able to support their students with educational gaps or understanding what's happening on homework, where some families may not have the resources, time, or they're working 2-3 jobs, right? There's all these things that make an equity in our system as well. So it's not just about, like I said, I think we're doing really good assessments. We're just maybe not meeting kids early on. This dyslexia screener, I think, will definitely help. But then it's like, what are we going to do now? How do teachers redesign? How do we use universal design for learning? How do we meet kids where they're at and differentiate where they're at to be able to meet their needs. If we just keep teaching down the middle, you keep leaving kids, and I think that's what Ms. Scott was definitely saying with her LCAP presentation.
Okay.
So I feel like that is why I see that this DISPRO and LCAP, all of the work that's being done there needs to be a clear partnership with the new director and student services around exactly this juncture.
Okay, thank you. That clears it up for me. But just a slight follow-up, and this might affect you too, Mr. Valenti. So are you looking at, are you getting ahead of, I mean, because when you mentioned TRP and it seems like, you know, an imbalance, just thinking about the other middle schools and just the teachers at TRP, are you talking or even looking at maybe having to make some adjustments based on the number of students with IEPs that are going to TRP and there might be less at the other schools, or is that something that you're not worried about?
If I understand, just in terms of staffing for those, I mean, we look at it every year, so right now, in terms of staffing, we've been looking at that really for the last few months, looking into next year, so we're, based on the numbers we have, we're good with the hiring. There are cases where we have somebody that might have to split sites, but that's usually in elementary schools when we have that. It's not as frequent that it occurs in middle schools.
And just so you know, Ben Franklin has 2 resource specialists assigned to him, so does TRP. They both have pretty similar numbers of students within special education. Yeah.
My question is about, it caught my attention, the school nurse and the school nurse clerk, we just have 4, but we have a nurse on site, right?
We have contracted services that provide the direct services to students with, you know, diabetes. They have that need. So we have one district nurse that is kind of the oversight that is, you know, does the coordination, and our 3 nurse clerks help with coordination. But we do have quite a few. Do you know how many
I think
contract?
we have 4.
No, how many
5.
contracted
5.
contracted nurses?
Yes, or LVNs. I think
Okay,
that's what
I
we
thought
have.
we had a little more than that. But we have, we do have
For
nurses.
next year, it's 5. I
Next year it's
don't
5.
know right off the top of my head what
Okay.
we have the second.
So we do have nurses that are contracted because you need more people. You can't just have one person running around all 15 schools. So we did have to contract for those individualized support services. So that's not shown in that chart he showed. That's district staff, but we do have contracted services like Ms. Peterson shared in her budget presentation.
There is a lot of prescription and a lot of assistant immediately, that's why.
Yes, and you probably see a lot of approvals for those types of, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your
All right, thank
presentation,
you
Dr.
so much.
Adams.
Thanks.
All right, we move on to item 11A, Certificated Personnel Administrative Appointment for 25-26. The administration recommends approval of the following administrative appointment. Cynthia Price, Director of Special Education, effective July 1st, 2025, 222 workdays, 1 MWMA, Step 5, plus $2,000 for a master's degree. This is an action item, so if there are any comments or questions, otherwise I'll entertain a motion. I motion to approve.
Well, I would like to make a comment. Congratulations.
Well, not yet. You have to approve it first.
Well, still giving my comment
I
as
usually get that
congratulations. Well, congratulations of being brought before us today, and I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Since now we can congratulate you, you may also, if you have anything prepared to say, you may go up and speak now.
Thank you. I want to take a moment and to thank the governing board, the superintendent, and everybody, because there's several of you here that were on the selection committee, in honoring me with the opportunity to work with this great team that I've gotten to know a little bit. And I wanted to say that I'm very excited to start this journey and contributing my experience and my knowledge to help continue to support all of the students in Jefferson Elementary School District in their continued support and growth. And it was a apologize, and their continued growth and success. And I also want to take a minute to just thank my aunt and uncle, who are not only here with me this evening, but for all of their support that they've given me throughout the several years since I've moved here, and then before that as well. So, thank you, everybody.
Welcome to Jefferson Elementary School District, and thank you, Aunt and Uncle, for being here. I like your scarf. All right, yeah, you have a long drive, so if you all need to get going, you are welcome to. All right, we are going to go back to item 7A. So, yeah, just to make sure. Anyway, so there's a board member acknowledgements and commendations. And so I believe I'm going to start on my left this time with Trustee Flamenco.
Sorry, no, the speaker card was for the special ed item. They were going to
Oh,
come
so
and
I gotta go
speak.
right
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it. Okay. We're gonna go back to 10A because there's a speaker card. All right, there is Raimundo Burriaga, and this is, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Yeah, I said that earlier. No worries. All right, and then, I said that earlier.
So I'm here, my name is Raimundo Burciaga, thank you guys for your time. My son Elias is a student at George Washington Elementary School in the SDC program. And just want to talk about the cuts that are going to happen at the school and the combining of 4th and 5th grade classes. So he mainstreams, like, I think about 40% of the time, do you know, about roughly? And it's been greatly beneficial academically and socially for him to mainstream. And I'm just really concerned with if there's gonna be 2 4th, 5th split classes, larger class size, what's that gonna do to his situation and then the other kids as well that are neurotypical. And I just wanna let you guys know that I'm concerned, and also the fact that we might lose our split time with our counselor, and she's worked greatly with him too. And so just touch on some of that stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. All right, we move on to item 7A, board member acknowledgements and commendations, and I will start on my left. Or do you want me to start on my right? Yeah, we'll start on my right instead.
Thank you. I just have to say that the past week has brought some of the most intense highs and lows I've experienced in my life. This past Thursday, I got to see one of my children have her clap out from elementary school. It was so much energy and love in the schoolyard, and we were totally buoyed to see that promotion and all of her classmates go through the same. The next day, I went to Fernando Rivera and got to see my other child graduate from middle school and actually take part in the ceremony, which was incredibly gratifying to get up there and speak to him and his classmates. And then this past weekend, my mother-in-law, who was just a total rock for our family, passed away. And it was, she lived such a full, incredible life, and we're celebrating that this week. And about one of the only regrets that I would have is that she was not able to attend either of those events, and they were just so incredible. So I really want to thank all of the teachers, all the classified staff, all the principals, all the administration who made those possible. I want to thank all of the students and their families who just did such a great job in their presentation and ceremony, in the graduation at Fernando Rivera, at all of our other middle schools, and want to congratulate all of the students and the families for being promoted, making it through another year. Certainly wishing them an amazing summer. So, yeah, where my head's at is just to hug your loved ones tight, make the most of every opportunity that you have, and we are fortunate just to have so many of those opportunities here in the Jefferson Elementary School District. Thank you.
We're here if you need to talk, Trustee Rashba.
I'd like to commend our former board member, Maybelle Manio, and the Renaissance organization for the business conference that they're having right now at the Cow Palace. So that's why I was a few minutes late. And just encourage all our youth and even parents to, think outside the box and create your own business, do something that provides some type of value to the community, and you can make some money at the same time. So, financial empowerment and emotional literacy is something that we need to foster in our young people now. It's going to be a high school graduation requirement now, financial literacy. So I'm interested in knowing how we can, once again, get in the front of something, in the forefront at our level. And as usual, I think we did a great job of keeping the best interests of our students forefront in our minds and our actions. Thank you.
Surprising enough, we're still at the beginning of our meeting.
This was my first graduation as a board member, and I want to thank all the staff that was organizing and building a relationship with the students. You were able to see tears coming from both sides, the parents, the students, our staff, and the impact you're creating as a director, as a superintendent, as a student. But something that caught my attention, Sandy, there were some students that didn't have the birrete, how do you say, the birrete and toga, the outfit?
The gown?
The outfit, yeah. And I wonder what happened to them, like why they were not able to.
I don't have the answer
Yeah.
to that. My assumption would be they chose not to wear it.
Okay. Maybe we can try to find more information about it. But yeah, it was really emotional. And having as well one of your kid there, as all the work that you have done as part of the board to continue advocating for the schools. And that's what we are here today. So thank you for all your work, and continue building relationships and impacting students as well. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I hope everyone is enjoying their summer so far. I know we are almost a little over a week in, so hopefully, and those of you who are still working, thank you for doing what you do. I want to talk a little bit about, again, I was honored to speak at those graduations, which two of my trustees have already mentioned, so I want to thank the trustees for also being there. I know each of you showed up to at least one, and again, it's just a special honor to be there, and I was honored to speak at 3 out of 4. Thank you, Trustee Rochfast, for speaking at the 4th. It's a lot of speaking. But again, ultimately, it's really just such a nice opportunity where, we do all this policy stuff. This is where we do our real advocating. But then where we really get to the community portion, that's where we go to graduations. That's when we get to go to your events. And so it's a real honor for us to be able to go to those. And so thank you to the principals and the school site staff for allowing us and, having us in your programs and introducing us. Every moment is a special opportunity for us to be there. Just a quick note, if anyone has sent me a message on my website is currently not sending me those, so please make sure you are emailing my JESD email if you are trying to get a hold of me. And then, Trustee Rashba, let me know if I didn't send you those graduation pics. I gotta say, I got some good ones of you. And then that is all for board member comments and commendations, so I will pass it off to superintendent comments.
Yes, so thank you for representing the board at our 8th grade promotion ceremonies, and thank you for being there and supporting our students. I loved hearing the speeches of the students and hearing the impact that, our teachers and our staff have had on their lives and their families as well. I also, the last week of school was also the Youth Cinema Project premiere on that Monday at Westmore High School. And so seeing the students' films and their stories and their telling a lot of it was about their social emotional learning and how they've coped with things in their lives. And so it was a lot of the lessons that we are seeing from our social emotional learning lessons we were seeing in those films. So that was really something fulfilling to see for me. And then also, I want to thank Dr. James Adams for his years of service, 25 years in our district. And this is his last board meeting with you all. And so I know he has probably gone out to speak to the new director to check in. But I just wanted to thank him. He can watch this later. Thank him for his years of service, and we've appreciated all the work he's done. And he's been, a consistent voice in special education and advocating for our students with our highest needs. And then I also want to welcome Cindy Price as the new director, and we're really excited to work with her. And so she had a long drive home. That's why we moved them up, and I wanted her to hear what James had to say. So that's why we moved them up in the agenda. So thank you for accommodating that. And I also want to thank everyone for a great year, and to have everyone enjoy their summer, and make sure that you stay up with your reading, and continue to be curious learners all summer, even though you're not in school.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we will move to item 7C, persons wishing to address the board, which I do know we have a couple comments. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed is for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. We will display the 2-minute timer on screen. If the timer ends, I will stop you if you go over. As a reminder, the board may not discuss or comment on any items not listed on this agenda or expressed during communications public comment. We want you to know that we will hear you, and we will ask our superintendent to follow up on your comments. Please make sure you leave your name and contact information with Ms. Santa Cruz so our administration knows how to reach you. All right, and we will start off with Raimundo Berciaga. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure because there is a second card here, so I just wanted to double check and make sure. All right, so we will move on to our next speaker, Deanna Mendez, SDC teacher.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address you. I'm here on the behalf of the teachers at George Washington Elementary School. We're deeply concerned about cuts being proposed for the 25-26 school year. We believe these cuts are not in the best interest of our students, and that they will have a disproportionate impact on small schools and Title I schools like ours. The first cut we're concerned about is the elimination of the TIG teacher position. This role has been crucial for us. Many of our students come to us with no English at all. We have been able to provide high-quality, targeted English language instruction in a small group setting. That will no longer be the case. In fact, the current solution is to have instruction delivered by instructional aides to the English-speaking students. This is unacceptable. Our students deserve better and need better. For our students with disabilities who are English language learners, this is one of the first classes we look into for mainstreaming. The next cut is to our counselor. Under current plan, her position will be decreased from full-time to 0.5. This will have a huge impact on our ability to create a safe and welcoming school. Our counselor is the foundation of our SEL, bullying prevention, and wellness programs. Please take into consideration our status as a Title I school, not just enrollment when making this decision. Please see that these are children, not just numbers. Additionally, we're being asked to do grade level splits. It is not possible to cover 2 years of standards in 1 year. This is not what is best for students, and once again, the impact is greater on a small school, a Title I school, and a school with STC classes that facilitate mainstreaming. Finally, the sum of all of these cuts in 1 year will be devastating to academic achievement, inclusion, and sense of belonging for students. Please reconsider rolling them all out at the same time. Please take into consideration the unique circumstance of individual schools and not rely solely on enrollment formulas to make decisions that impact the well-being of our students. We have worked hard to build a strong program for our students, and there is no way to maintain the quality with these cuts. Thank you.
All right, our second speaker is Mr. Clayton Koo.
Good evening, members of the board. It's nice to see you all again. Thanks for the opportunity to speak for you tonight. I'd like to start by personally thanking the board for adopting at your December 18th, 2024 meeting, resolution number 24-12-18B, Resolution setting forth the JESD's principles in support of safe and welcoming environment for our students, families, staff, and community members without regard to ethnicity, national origin, race, religion, sexual orientation, ability, gender, socioeconomic, or immigration status. Amidst the extremely concerning recent news of law enforcement activities targeting certain communities across California and the nation, in the streets, in places of worships, in our agricultural fields, in our schools, as well as everything else in between, I'm proud our district and the governing board has already shown where its value lie on this topic. I feel an overwhelming sense of pride in knowing that our district has already taken significant steps to demonstrate its commitment to justice, equity, and inclusion. The need for institutions like JESD to stand firm in their values has never been more important today than ever, especially in a time when so many communities are grappling with fear, division, and uncertainty. Tonight, I ask the Jefferson Elementary School District to continue to recommit its support for these values. I encourage all of you to continue upholding the ideal that our schools remain not only safe spaces for learning, but also inclusive, welcoming, and supportive environments where every student, family, staff member, and community member is respected and valued, regardless of their background, status, or identity. Our district has set a strong example, and it is vital that we continue to honor and uphold these principles in every level, ensuring that they resonate throughout our entire community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right, we move on to item 8, consent agenda. The administration recommends the approval of the following consent starred agenda items. Is there any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Santa Cruz, if you may.
Mr. Rashba?
Aye.
Mr. Ali?
Aye.
Ms. Flamenco?
Aye.
Mr. Sujisaka?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we move on to item 9A, second addendum to the superintendent employment agreement. The board will ratify a second addendum to the superintendent employment agreement, extending the term by 1 year to June 30th, 2028, increasing the base salary by $5,260, and replacing the cost of living adjustment language in this annual salary adjustment article for the 25-26 school year to be commensurate with other certificated management staff, or a 3.19% increase to base salary. If there's any comments or questions, otherwise I'll entertain a motion. I motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and we have a lot more to do. We are now at governance team comments, reports, future agenda items, and board meeting reflection. And I will start on my right.
I am speechless. Good meeting, and just want to wish all of the students, families, teachers, staff, and everyone in the JESD an enjoyable summer. Thank you.
I cannot quiet what is happening of immigration about Latinos, and I just want to say that it's necessary a reform of immigration in our country as well as internationally.
I echo my fellow board trustee sentiments. I also want to thank our public for staying for such a long meeting. We know that there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we appreciate our public for speaking up and saying what we can. Otherwise, I don't think there is anything else. So we are going to close the regular meeting in memory of Miramanti Wijaya, mother-in-law of board trustee Aaron Rashba and resident of Daly City. Please take a moment of silence. I adjourn the regular meeting at 8:42 p.m. and I am now I'm calling to order the Jefferson Elementary Special Governing Board meeting at 8:43 p.m. Ms. Santa Cruz, can I get roll call, please?
Aaron Rashba?
Aye.
Shaquille Ali?
Aye.
Nadia Flamenco?
Here.
Anthony Sujisaka.
Here.
Andrea Jordan is absent.
Thank you very much. All right, persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and in closed session. The maximum time for any speaker allowed is usually 2 minutes. We will display the 2-minute timer for you on the screen. If the timer ends, I will stop you if you go over. As a reminder, this board may not discuss or comment on any items not listed on this agenda or expressed during communications public comment. We want you to know that we will hear you and will ask our superintendent to follow up on your comments. Please make sure you leave your name and contact information with Ms. Santa Cruz so our administration knows how to reach you. Do we have any communication public comment? Okay, no, we do not. Tell them to line up outside, please. Anyway, we now, we convened a closed session at 8:45 PM. Oh, do I need to? Okay, I don't need to hit this.